Okay, we're on the Mishnah on Chav Zayin of an Aleph. The Mishnah is dealing with things that are ma'akiv each other, meaning basically things that if you don't have, or things that if you don't do properly, you're not yoytze b'di'evet, it's ma'akiv, you're not yoytze at all. So ha'koimitz miya ma'akiv is rubai. A little bit of the koimitz missing is ma'akiv. We don't just say, well, bring the rest. If you're missing a little bit of the koimitz, you lose some of it, you throw out the whole thing. It's a ma'akiv, you're not yoytze. Isar and ma'akiv is rubai. If you have less than an isaron of flour, it's no good. Hayayin miyut ma'akiv rubai. Too little wine of the nesachim is ma'akiv. Hashem and miyut ma'akiv is rubai. Same thing with the oil. Hasoilut v'Hashem ma'akiv zezeh. You need both oil and flour of the mincha. If you have one without the other, you're not yoytze. We don't just say, oh, one ingredient is enough. You're not yoytze. Hakaimitz v'alvayin ma'akiv zezeh. And the kaimitz l'alvayin are the same. So the Gemara brings sources for this. Now, just to say before we go inside, oftentimes when something is ma'akiv, there's different ways that the Torah expresses how it's ma'akiv. One way is by repeating the pasuk twice, or repeating the concept twice, or other words is by extra words, extra letters. So my time, what's the source? That kaimitz is ma'akiv. Amakra muloi kumtzai trei zimni. It says muloi kumtzai, which implies, right? It says muloi kumtzai, which is repeating it. And because it's repeating, this is the second time that it said it. Malaikum Tzai, it says Kaimitz and Malaikum Tzai. Therefore, because it's second, it's written a second time. One regarding the regular mincha, one regarding the minchas chayte. So it's repeated in order to say it's ma'akiv. Isar mu ma'akiv berubai. My time. How do I know that the flour isaron is ma'akiv? Amakra misalta. It could have said soilus. The extra hay is that it's ma'akiv. Shemchis kol shu psula. Hayayim ma'akiv is rubai. How do you know that wine is ma'akiv? You miss a little bit because it says kacha. Kacha means it has to be as is, as the Torah says. And if not, you know, Hashem and Mimakis Rubai, the same thing with the oil. The Minchas Nesachim Kacha, Uminchas Nedava Amar Kro Mishamna, Shimchi Yisarachas Kol Shehu Psula. By the Minchas Nesachim it says Kacha, so it has to be exactly as it is. And by the Minchas Nedava, it says Shamna, the extra hay, so it's Ma'akiv. Hashem and Vaselis Ma'akiv Zezeh. Oil and flour are Ma'akiv each other. Misalto Mishamna. From the extra Misalto Mishamna, that's by the flour. Umigirso Mishamna. And because it's repeated, soilus and shemen, girsa and shemen, it's repeated. Flour and oil is written twice, therefore it's ma'akiv. Hakaimitz v'alvayna ma'akiv zezeh, al kol levaynosav es kol levayna shel mincha. It says it twice. It says ma'akiv. Okay, Zok the Mishnah, other things that are ma'akiv. Shnei siri yom kippur ma'akiv zezeh, the two goats of Yom Kippur, the lahashem lazazel, they're ma'akiv. You have one. If you only have one, you're not yoytze. You can't just bring one without the other. The two lambs of the Shavuos carbon of the Shtei Alechem is makiv. The two loaves of the Shtei Alechem is makiv. Shnei star makiv. The two groups of the Lechem Aponim. If you just have one group of, let's say, 6, you can't just say, oh, I have enough. No, you need all 12, both groupings. Hasidrin v'abazikin ma'av. The arrangement of the bread and the spoonfuls of the Shnei bazik ma'av. You also need to have the 2 spoons of levina. One is not enough. Hasidar and babazikim ma'akiv. The arrangement is also ma'akiv. We don't put the bread on the lechem on the shulchan unless the spoons are there as well, and vice versa. Shnei minim shebenazir. The 2 types of bread that are brought with the nazir's carbon is ma'akiv. Shleisha shebepara. The 3 ingredients with the para aduma, which is the cedar, the wood, the shnei sailas. All those ingredients, you need all of them. Arba shebetoida, the 4 loaves of bread, the 4 different types of bread of the toida is ma'akiv. If you have 3 out of the 4, you're not yoytze. Arba shalulav, the dal and minim. If you have a lulav, an esek, and a hadas, the no'arav, you're not yoytze. Arba shem mitzayra, the 4 components of the mitzayra's purification process. Ma'akiv says all ma'akiv. Shiva hazosha bepar ma'akiv says that. Right, when they would bring the para aduma, before they would burn it, they would take the blood outside the Beis Hamikdash and sprinkle it towards the Kodesh HaKadoshim. If you don't do 7, you're not yoytze. And Sheva Hazoy Shalbein Abadim, Shal Paroiches, Vashim Mizbach Azav, Ma'akvin says and all the sprinklings that are done on Yom Kippur and the other inner chatos, the placement on the inner Mizbeach, the 7 sprinklings in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, outside of the all Ma'akiv. Okay. So the Gemara says like this.
Record progress.
So the Gemara is going to bring rayas and sources for all this. Shnei Siri Yom Kippur Ma'akiv zezeh, they're both Ma'akiv. Chuka, because it says the word chayk regarding Yom Kippur, and when it says chayk, it means it has to be done exactly how the Torah says. If not, you're not yoytze. Shnei kivsei aseres ma'akiv says the 2 lambs of Shavuos are ma'akiv each other because havia. It says siya. It should be which means it has to be as is. Any change, you're not yoytze. Shtei chalas havia. Same thing with the shtei chalas. It says havia. The lashon hoiva, tia, yia, all those things that means it has to be as is. Shnei sedar and chuka. The two arrangements of the lechem aponim is because it says choik. Shnei bazikin choika also says choik. Hasidjin vabazikin chuka. It says choik by all these things. Shnei minir shebenazir tichsiv kain yasa, which means it has to be as is. And shleisha beparim chuka. Arba shebetoida the iskish lenazir. The four low types of bread is because it's hekish lenazir. Tichsiv azevach toida shlamav. It says regarding the toid that says Shlamav, Vamer Mar, Shlamav l'Rabbi Shalmi Nazir. So because there's an allusion to the Shalmi Nazir by the toida, they're connected, and just like the Nazir is Ma'akiv, because it's Chayk, so too over here it's Ma'akiv as well. V'arba Shem Mitzayr, the four purification process of Mitzayr, D'chsiv Zois Tia Torah Mitzayr. Tia means it has to be as is. Arba Shabbalulav, you need to have all the Daled Minim bound together. Ulakachtem L'kicha Tama. As L'kachtem has to be taken all as once, all bound together. Amar Rav Chanan Barava, Lo Yishanol She'ein Loi, Ava Yesh Loi in Ma'akvit. Says Rav Chanan, this thing that you have to have the Daled Minim, you do not have to bind them together. Not like I said before. You just have to hold them. They don't have to be bound together. It's Ma'akiv if you're missing one, but if you're holding all four, even if they're not bound together, you're Yaitse. I may say, have a kasha. Wait a minute, you're telling me you don't have to bind them together. The obvious question is, we hold that you do have to bind them together. Meisvei, the Brisa says, Arba Minur Shabbalulav, the four species of lulav, Shnaim and Oisim Peris. Two of them, the lulav and esrig, bear fruit. They come from fruit-bearing trees. The Shnaim and Oisim Peris, and two of them, the Hadas and Arava, do not bear fruit. What's the significance? Bearing fruit is symbolic of Jews that are, like tzaddikim, whatever, capable. Non-bearing fruit are symbolic of Jews that are not as capable. And they're bound together. It says hashkafa. She'ein oisa peris yizkuk l'oisa peris. The oisim peris yizkuk l'oisa peris. Kadosh Baruch Hu wants them to realize that all of Klal Yisrael needs each other. Ein adam yoytze dechavasa behen at shekulam b'udachas. And they have to be bound together. So stop right here. You told me before they don't have to be bound together. This one says it does. The Chayin Yisrael b'hartzah. And what's the symbolism of the Daled Minim? So too it is with Jews at davening. When Jews daven to Hashem, at shekulam b'udachas. Hashem will only answer tefillas if we're all bound together. Whether you have Jews that are Oisaperis, not Oisaperis, all together. That Hashem binds us together on the ground. So you see, so the point is, it's a hashkafic element, but the point is, it's a kasha. Do you have to bind the lulav and esrog together, the lulav with the hadas and rava or not? Rav Chanan bar Rava said no, but the Brisa says yes. The answer is Tanohi, it's machlokes Tanoim. Tanya, lulav bein agav and shein agav kosher. Tanakama says, whether you bind the lulav with the hadas and rava or not, you're yaitza. Kosher, and Rav Yehuda Amar Agud Kosher and Agud Apostle. Rav Yehuda disagrees; it has to be bound together. So it's two different opinions. My time with Rav Yehuda. What's the source of Rav Yehuda? That it does not, that it needs to be bound together. Gamar kicha me'agudas ezav. It says the word kicha by lulav. It says the word kicha by the agudas ezav, which is the hyssop and the cedar by the paraduma. And over there, I'm sorry, not by the paraduma. This is by the carbon pesach in Mitzrayim, that they dipped it and put by the blood by the doorpost, and there it was a bundle. It had to be bound together. Mala lon ba'aguda, afkan ba'aguda. So it says kicha kicha, just like over there, it has to be bound together. So the lulav bound together. The Rabbanu who do not believe that it needs to be bound together, loy gamri kicha kicha. They don't have this gzeir shava. Okay. Now it seems that you have a machlokes. That you have Rabbi Yehuda says if it's not bound together, you're not yotze. According to Rabbanon, you are yotze. It sounds like according to Rabbanon, you don't have to do it. It's not better to do it. You're yotze, with or without. The Gemara is going to prove it's not true. The Gemara says, who's the author of the following price? It says, lulav mitzvah. It's a mitzvah to bind the lulav with the hadas and rava. You should bind it, but if not. The question, who's like this? You have Rav Yehuda that you're not yotze at all. You seemingly have the Rabbanon that lichachili you don't have to. And over here it says, no, lichachili you should, but if you didn't, you're fine. Who offers this? Kiman, ikrav Yehuda loyagdam my kosher. Rabbanon my mitzvah. The answer is loylam Rabbanon. The truth is the Rabbanon. When the Rabbanon said you don't have to, they just meant you're yoytze b'di'evet if you don't. But even the Rabbanon agree that you should. L'chachilo, everyone agrees that you should. The shaila is whether yoytze b'di'evet. Why the Rabbanon say you should? My mitzvah zakei livan ve'u. It's more beautiful to bind it together zakei livan ve'u. Sheva hazah sheva para ma'akvin zezeh. The 7 sprinklings of the para aduma are essential. Chukah because it says chukah. Sheva hazah shal ben abadim v'shal mizbach hazah v'shal paroiches. Ma'akvin zezeh. All of these sprinklings which are done on Yom Kippur inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, inside the Heichal, and for the other Chatos HaPnimiyos, they're all ma'akiv. How do I know this? Yom Kippurim Ksiv Ksuv Chuka. It says Chuka regarding Yom Kippur. So the par inside Yom Kippurim, that's Chuk. Now the other inner Chatos are Par Kohen Mashiach, Par Ham Davar Shel Tzibar, Siri Avodah Zarah. So how do you know for all that? Kedetanya. This is from the following brisa. It says regarding the Par Ham Davar Shel Tzibar, it says the Kohen Gadol's par. And the next parish it says Par Ham Davar Shel Tzibar. It says V'asal par kashasal par. You should treat the Par Ham Davar Shel Tzibar that which you treated the Kohen Gadol's par. What's the point of that? It tells me the same procedures. It says the procedure of Kohen Gadol. It says the procedure of Par Ham Davar Shel Tzibar. They're the same. And then it says that which you did by the Par Ham Davar Shel Tzibar, you should do for that which you did by the Par Kohen Gadol, you should do for the Par Ham Davar Shel Tzibar. It's an unnecessary pasuk. Mata Maloymar Lichbol B'Hazar. Let's go on the next page. What the pasuk is telling us is that it repeated that pasuk to tell me that the same way you have to do those 7 by the Par Kohen Gadol. If you miss any of them, you're not yotzeh by the other ones as well. So it's from this extra pasuk. The truth is a much longer brayso in Zvachim that goes through it, but that's the alluding to it. Okay. From here until the end of the daf, we're going to be dealing with the following sugya, and that is by the Para Aduma. We said before that there was a sprinkling. At the Para Aduma, they would sprinkle the blood towards the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Now, so the shaila is, does it have to be mamish facing? Let's say you completely miss it, right? Let's say you're going, the Kodesh HaKadoshim is straight, and you go to the right. Are you yotzeh if you don't go in the right direction? The Tana Rabbanan, Sheva Azor Sheva Para. The 7 sprinklings of the Para Aduma blood towards the Beis Hamikdash she'asan. Bein shaloi lishman, bein shaloi b'chavanis, psules. If you did a shaloi lishman, you're puzzle. If you did it in the wrong direction, you're puzzle. So if you do it in the wrong direction, you're puzzle. Shebefnim, shebe mitzayra, but the sprinklings that are done inside the heichal, this is referring to, let's say, on Yom Kippur, the par and sar of Yom Kippurim, or the oil of the mitzayra that they would sprinkle the oil towards the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So the halacha is shaloi lishman psules. If you do shaloi lishman, it's possible. But for shaloi mechuvana is ksheris. But if you do it in the wrong direction, so let's say you walk into the Beis Hamikdash, or even on Yom Kippur, he's standing in the Heichal and he just goes the wrong wall. Instead of towards the Kodesh HaKadoshim, he goes the wrong wall. You're kosher. Now, what we're going to focus on is this following kasha. Sprinkling of the blood of the Para Aduma, it has to be towards the Kodesh HaKadoshim, towards that direction. And if you go the wrong direction, you're not yotzeh. But the kasha is, this brisa says that if you do it in the wrong direction, you're kosher. So, I'm sorry, I'm distracted. There was a silly person who looked happy over something small. So the question is like this. It was Meira. So the question is like this. If you do it in the wrong direction, one brisa says it's puzzle, one brisa says it's kosher. So how do you reconcile this? So the Gemara says, Amrav Chizda, loy kasha, harav Yehuda, harabanan. The answer is they're not authored by the same people. Now, what's interesting about this is, we're saying that Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion that if you sprinkle in the wrong direction, you're not yotzeh. But the brisa that says you sprinkle in the wrong direction, you are yotzeh is the Rabbanan. Now, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbanan have no shaykhah. They do not talk about this topic at all. What they're going to be is a very long brisa, and that is a machlokes as to how far a Yisrael can walk into the Kodesh HaKadoshim before he's chayiv misa, and it has to do with how makbid are they on the lashon of the pasuk, and if they're makbid about the lashon of the pasuk over there, are they makbid about the lashon of the pasuk by the Para Aduma? So it's really no shaykhis. It's a very long brisa, but at the end of the brisa, we'll see how maybe it's episode shaykhis. The Tanya, the halach is like this. This is regarding entering the. It is good to know the layout of the Beis Hamikdash for the next Gemara. You had the first 11 amas of the Azara that was permitted for Yisraelim. Obviously, everyone's tahar permitted for Yisraelim. Then at that point on, it was Kehanim only. Pashas Machlokes Rishonim, Pashas is only Asadar Abanon for Kehanim, for Yisraelim to go at that point. Then there's the Heichal, the Ulam, the Heichal, the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So, Ditanya. Let's go with Tamei people and then Tahar people. So Mechusri Kippurim, Shenichas Azar. If someone enters Azar and he's Mechusri Kippurim, he has not yet brought a carbon, so he's not allowed to enter there. B'shagi Chayiv Chatas, Mezid Anish Karis. Okay. And obviously everyone that's Tamei. So that's the halacha for someone who's Tamei. That's davar you do. You cannot enter the Azara. If you do, it's going to be a Shagi Chayiv Chatas and on purpose Chayiv Karis. But let's say I'm Tahar, but I'm Yisrael. So what is the status of how far I can go and all those things? So the Gemara says like this: Utahirim, and those that are tahar, but they're not. By the way, this could be. This is also. By the way, this could also be. This could also be Yisrael, a Kayan also. The truth is tahar, even a Kayan, there are areas that he's not allowed to enter. So he says Utahirim. Those that are tahar, it's a kayin who entered. Rashi says it's a kayin who entered not for the purpose of avodah. So he's just walking in, and he should not be there. So shenichlesu lefnim mimechitzasen. If he went beyond the boundaries, so lahechel kulei. If he entered the entire hechel, ba'arboim. If a kayin enters or anyone enters the hechel, let's say a kayin. If a kayin enters the hechel, he gets lashes. Mibeis leparoiches el pnei kapeiros. If they entered into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, or further, this is important to know, Beis LaParoiches is the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and El Pnei HaKaporos, I just want to clarify. Beis LaParoiches and Pnei HaKaporos are both referring to entering the Kodesh HaKadoshim. The only difference is, Pnei HaKaporos, that after you entered the Kodesh HaKadoshim, you walked towards the actual Aron itself. So one thing to remember is Pnei HaKaporos is further in. So says the Tanakama, if a kohen or anyone enters mebeis laparoiches el Pnei HaKaporos b'misa, heichal lashes, kodesh hakdoshim misa. Now there's a little bit of a strange thing over here, is that the pasuk says that if he enters mebeis laparoiches el Pnei HaKaporos, it's b'misa. There's one of them that's a little bit unnecessary, because if you know that you get misa by beis haparoiches, which is entering the kodesh hakdoshim, you definitely get misa by walking deep into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. We'll deal with that. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. He says no. Kol heichal kuloi umebeis laparoiches barboim. Entering the heichal and entering the Kodesh HaKadoshim is only lashes. Pnei HaKaporos, going towards the Aron, which is inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, taking steps towards the Aron, that's when you're chayiv misa. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, so there's three places. There's heichal, everyone agrees is lashes. There's Pnei HaKaporos, which is standing basically on the Aron or near the Aron. That's Misa, no question. The Shaila is entering the Kodesh HaKadoshim. The Tanakama says it's Misa, or Yehuda says it's lashes. Maika Miflagi, what is the Machlekes about? B'Haikra. It's based on this pasuk. It says, V'yomer Hashem Moshe daber Aaron achicha v'yavi b'chaleis al HaKodesh. Hashem told Moshe to tell Aaron, do not enter that place. Mebeis laparoiches al Pnei HaKaporos asher alam v'yamos. Do not enter Beis laparoiches al Pnei HaKaporos. Don't enter those places because you shall die. So the beginning of the pasuk is al yavi b'chaleis, lo saseh, lashes. Then it ends off mebeis laparoiches al Pnei HaKaporos v'lo yamos. So think of the pasuk as like bookends. Lo yavai is the heichal, lashes. Agreed. Pnei HaKaporos is yamos for sure. The question is, what do you do with the words mebeis laparoiches? Is that, where do you put the comma? Is the comma after mebeis laparoiches, meaning that's with the first part of the pasuk with lashes, or mebeis laparoiches, the comma's before, and that's with the end? That's the machlokes. Rabbanan savi al kodesh b'lo yavai mebeis laparoiches al Pnei HaKaporos b'lo yamos. Rabbi Yehuda savi al Pnei HaKodesh mebeis laparoiches b'lo yavai al Pnei HaKaporos b'lo yamos. But what shaykhs does this have to the putting blood in the direction of the kodesh HaKadoshim? We'll get to that. My time with the Rabbanan. What's the Rabbanan's source? So Isa Gadayda Kedakam Rabbi Yehuda, the Rabbanan say like this: if Rabbi Yehuda is right that you only get misa by standing near the Kodesh HaKadoshim, Lichtav Rachmana el Kodesh vel Pnei HaKaporos, v'loy boy mebeis laparoiches, v'ano amina heichel mechayim mebeis laparoiches miboy mebeis laparoiches zekasar Rachmana lamali shma mina b'misa. They say like this: the pasuk mentions three things. The heichel is a lav. El Pnei HaKaporos is misa. The question is beis laparoiches. So Rabbanan say, well, if you get misa, if Rabbi Yehuda's right that you get misa only for Pnei HaKaporos, right, If Rabbi Yehuda is right that you get lashes by entering the Kodesh HaKadoshim, so it's like the Heichal, so the question is, why say that at all? The pasuk says you get lashes by entering the Heichal. How do you get to the Kodesh HaKadoshim if you don't go through Heichal? You can't. So why do you need three categories? Meaning, the pasuk says you get lashes by the Heichal. The pasuk says you get misa by Pnei HaKaparis. The question is, the pasuk also says this middle phrase of entering the Kodesh HaKadoshim. If you get lashes for entering the Kodesh HaKadoshim, you already got lashes because you enter the Heichal. It's unnecessary. It must be that this middle category is misa. That's what the pasuk says. That's the Rabbanon's take. Rabbi Yehuda responds, my kodesh me beis laparoiches. Aval heichal lav nami loy. Rabbi Yehuda responds, you're missing the boat. You only know that it's the heichal because it writes later on in the pasuk me beis laparoiches. Meaning, it says beis laparoiches, right? It says in the beginning lo yavai, which is there's a lav. Then it's pnei hakaparis, beis laparoiches. So you said, well, lo yavai is the heichal, beis laparoiches is the kodesh HaKadoshim. Why does it have to be? There must be misa. Rabbi Yehuda responds, because it doesn't have to write it, because it could just say the heichal, and I'll know that if the heichal is lashes, the kavachayim, the kodesh HaKadoshim. No, the answer is I need this to be written to clarify what we're talking about. It says lo yavei ala kodesh. Kodesh maybe means kodesh HaKadoshim. I only know that it's a heichal because later on in the pasuk it's written beis hapareiches pnei hakaparis. So the reason why it's wrote that is because it's to give context of what the beginning of the pasuk is. The Rabbanan respond, you cannot say that Kodesh would be referring to Kodesh HaKadoshim. The Heichal Kuli Kodesh. Heichal is definitely a description of Kodesh. Kodesh is not the Heichal. Kodesh is not just the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Kodesh is the Heichal. Kodesh HaKadoshim is Kodesh HaKadoshim. Rabbi Yehuda, my time. What's Rabbi Yehuda's shita? Why does Rabbi Yehuda get? Where's his source from? Because he says, Isa gadayta kedagam Rabban. If you hold like the Rabbanon, that you get misa for entering the Kodesh HaKadoshim, then Luch Rachman al Kodesh beis hapareiches. The obvious problem. It says in the pasuk three things. Lo yavai heichal is lav. According to the Rabbanon, entering Kodesh HaKadoshim is chayv misa, and then it says, do not stand by the aron. Well, if I'm already getting chayv misa by walking in, what do you have to mention that for? So it says Rabbi, there must be you're only chayv misa by standing by the aron and not before. So I know Mina. Beis hapareiches misa al pnei hakaparis biboy al pnei hakaparis lamali shmami no pnei hakaparis misa beis hapareiches bazar. The Rabbanon respond hachinami leitzarich. The Rabbanon respond, you're right. You don't actually have to write that last case. By the kasar chon al pnei hakaparis. So why is it written? If you already get chayv misa by entering Kodesh HaKadoshim, why does the pasuk have to say do not stand by the aron? Kedetan d'ber Rav Eliezer, Rav Eliezer ben Yaakov al pnei hakaparis keidma. I'm sorry, Lemute derech meshupa. Pnei HaKaparis is to tell me that you have to walk in, that you're only chayiv. It's not to tell you where you're chayiv, because you're already chayiv in Kodesh HaKadoshim. So why does it say that you're chayiv misa if you stand by the aron? It's pnei. It's telling you that you're only chayiv if you enter the Kodesh HaKadoshim pnei in the normal way, facing, as opposed to meshupa, in an abnormal way. What's an abnormal way? So Rashi says, tunneling in, or walking sideways. You're only chayav misa if you tunnel in. You're not chayav misa. Why? Because it says pnei. It has to be that you're walking straight. Because pnei always means in that direction, the eastern side. So the Gemara says, meaning you have to enter from the east, not tunneling, entering from the east. Rabbi Yehuda lema kra pnei my el, and the Rabbi Yehuda responds, if the Torah is just teaching you the direction, it should say pnei my el. The word el is extra to tell me that you're only chayiv misa for the standing by the aron. So what do you see from here? What does it have anything to do with what I discussed? Shema mina, el dafka, Rabbanon el lav dafka. The Rabbanon would respond to el is lav dafka. So it's a machlekes of either the Rabbanon, this roundabout way to teach me whether the word el is dafka or not. What does it have to do with our discussion? It says, the Gemara, it says in the pasuk regarding sprinkling the blood, it says, vehiza el noichach. To sprinkle it el noichach. El noichach means towards the direction of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So the question is that dafka? The same way there's a machlekes of Yudah Rabbanon whether it's dafka in that discussion, so too it's a machlekes over here whether it's dafka as well. Rav Yehuda the Amr el pnei hakaparis is dafka. According to Rav Yehuda, that pnei hakaparis is dafka, that everything in the pasuk is mamish dafka, it has to be by the cover, by the aron. So he's al noichach nami dafka. So then it also has to be precise. You have to sprinkle it mamish in that direction. If you're off, you're not chayiv. You're not yoytze the paradum. The rabbanon midahasam lavdavka hachanami lavdavka. The rabbanon, the fact that it's not precise, meaning you're chayiv misa even if you're not standing by the aron cover. You're chayiv misa from before. The entire pasuk is imprecise. It's telling me something else. So too sprinkling doesn't have to be precise in that direction. Mask Rav Yosef, Rav Yehuda, midel dafka al nami dafka. Wait a minute. So you tell me that according to Rav Yehuda everything has to be written mamish. So let me ask you a question. El demikdash sheni. The pasuk says regarding the avodah of Yom Kippur, it says you should sprinkle the blood on the cover of the aron. And you tell me according to Rav Yehuda everything's b'dafka. So let me ask you a question. So how do they do it in the second base of Mikdash? There was no aron. So you're going to say, well, it's close by the area. No, it has to be b'dafka. So el demikdash sheni lo have a aron kapiris hachanami lo yavad azar. So how do they do the sprinklings? So Amar Rabbi Ula says, generally Rav Yehuda is very makbeh, it has to be as is. But Amar Kra, the Chiper is Mikdash HaKodesh. The pasuk says regarding Kippur, Mikdash HaKodesh, the place of holiness, even if the aron's not there. Makam HaMekudesh HaKodesh. So the pasuk is specifically being marbeh, that even if the aron's not there. Just to finish up, we had a contradiction. Is sprinkling in the direction of the blood of the Parah Aduma, in the direction of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, is it essential or not? So he says, Machlokes Rav Yehuda the Rabbanan. The Gemara says, Rav Omar Hava HaRabbanan. The truth is, it's both Rabbanan. The answer is, how far off are you? If you're not directly, like with a compass, but you're in the right direction, you're east and west, you're in the right direction, fine. You go south and north, you're not Yaitza. Hava Rabbanan, Hadakoi Mizach Mari V'Adi, Hadakoi Safin V'Adarim V'Adi. I'll stop here.